Gulag Archipelago by Solzhenitsyn, when you compare him to the other classic Russian writers, it's a little bit different in that this one is nonfiction, but the book is just as long, if not longer. It's one of the longest I've read. I would say longer than Anna Karenina, and probably longer than Romance of the Three Kingdoms and Water Margin. But boy, oh boy, I think this one is worth it. So Solzhenitsyn, in his old life, he was an officer in the Russian military during World War II, and he describes how he was arrested and sent to prison over some letters that he had sent to a former acquaintance who happened to be from one of the countries that Russia was hostile with during the war. And of course, sending letters to a foreign national like that, he was accused of espionage, he was accused of being a traitor to the people, to the grand cause, and no trial, just throw him in jail. And he describes the entire process, the arrest, the interrogation, torturing you until you forced to sign papers that say you did something that you're not even guilty of. All the psychology tricks they play on you during the interrogation. Talks about there's people who are told that their families are in the other room, and then they have a woman scream at just the right time and it sounds like your wife, and there is such a wealth of methods for torturing both physically and psychologically the human mind. The Russians really were cutting edge on torture. But it doesn't stop there. The book goes through his entire time in camp and doesn't exactly do it chronologically, more does it examining every aspect of life in camp, all the various types of camp, prison camp that is, all the different types of work someone could be assigned to, what the food was like, what the bed was like, what the living conditions were like, what the punishments were like, the kinds of people who got in there, because it was so many people who basically did nothing wrong. They ran afoul of some Stalinist law that was created for the purpose of putting ideological opponents of the party away, out of society, arresting people who have no clue why they're being arrested, throwing millions in these prison work camps, to the point where it became an economy that needed to be fed with fresh bodies, so they just started, at some point, arresting people just to arrest them, like the laws would come and go. He describes the law of the day. It could be saying something wrong about this or that, or it could be being accused of economic sabotage, or wrecking, as they called it. So, millions of innocent people thrown into prison work camps with no trial, tortured until they sign a confession, and then they're declared guilty, so they have to stay in there for 5, 10, 15 years. And then after they get out, they're sent to these exile camps, so they're not even fully integrated into the old society that they once knew.